some way finds themselves parenting children, even though they may not be their biological children. Heavenly Father, we commit ourselves to you. We know you are already here, and we ask that you will instruct us, help us to learn, and not just to be hearers, but also to be doers. Help us to put into practice those things that we learn here. Be with our facilitators, our panel, and everybody who has a part to play in this seminar. We ask that you use all of us to the honor and the glory of your great name. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Ma'am, for the opening prayer. We appreciate that. And I notice at this point we are about 20 on the call. Sorry for the hitch. Once again, warmly welcome to this parenting seminar. We thank you for according the time to be able to be part of this. And thanks, Patricia, joining on the call from Arua. And sorry for the hitch. Once again, warmly welcome to this parenting seminar. We thank you for according the time to be able to be part of this. Thank you. Shira, or if you're online, please kindly pick it from there to proceed. Just a technical hitch on my end. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Martin, very much. Thank you for that introduction. And thank you, Mrs. Langa, for the prayer. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're very welcome to today's session. We're really happy that you could make time to be here. We know you could have been doing other things, but you made time to come and attend this session, and we're really happy to have you. Kindly let us know where you're joining us from. We'll be glad to connect with you. And I can see a lot of you are joining us from different parts of the country. We have Rhoda. Rhoda is coming from Barara. Thank you, Rhoda, for joining. There is also Betty from Nairobi, Kenya. So it's not only in Uganda, but different parts of the world. Thank you, Betty, for joining us. Joy from Jinja, thank you, you're very welcome. We have Patrick from Chira. Patrick, you're very welcome. Thank you guys for coming, for joining us this afternoon. BeatriceLanga from Tavia. I hope I have pronounced that right. Thank you for joining us. And then we have Patricia from Arua. Thank you, Patricia, for joining. Kindly let us know where you are joining us from. We are a community and would like to connect and get to know each other. So we're really glad to have you on here. Thank you for joining us. Daniel from Nigeria. Wow, we have people from all over the world. Thank you, Daniel, for joining. Thank you for joining us, Daniel. We also have South Africa, Rebecca from South Africa. Thank you, Rebecca, for joining. There is people from all over the world. We are grateful for social media because we can all convene in one place from different locations and different places in the world. You're very welcome. We have Josephine from Chira. Thank you for joining us. You're welcome, Josephine. We are really, really glad to have all of you here, and you're very welcome. So keep letting us know where you're joining from. Stephen from Buikwe. Very, very welcome. It's good to have you. And so many of you are joining in. I would like to remind you that this chat is open. So as the conversation is going on, as the seminar is going on, please feel free to share your concerns, put your suggestions, and any ideas that come to your mind. You always feel free to put them in this chat section, even as we begin. So we also have Josephine Asimwe. You are very welcome. We're glad to have you on here. Thank you to each and every one of you for making time to be here. We're glad to have you. And please feel free to share your thoughts along the way. If you have questions along the way, please type them in the comment section. We will pick them on from there, and they will be answered along as the presentations happen. We have John Paul also joining us this afternoon. You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to have you too. You are all most welcome to the parents seminar this afternoon. And for those that I have not mentioned, I just want to say that you're all very, very welcome. I may not be able to mention each and every one of you, but continue letting us know who you are and where you're joining from. I would love to connect with you that way. So thank you very much. Feel free and feel at home, especially on this forum. So Martin, kindly take over from here.
Thank you, Shira. Once again, as Family Life Network, we are pleased to have you online. And at this point, I would like to ask Robert to give us some more insight about Family Life Network, such that before we dive deep into what we have for today, at least you have an insight about Family Life Network. Robert, kindly step in and give us some background. Thank you. Over to you, Robert.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen online. I'm happy to be part of this evening, and as we look into different aspects of our organization, I'm glad that many people have registered. We have about 31, and I hope we will be able to be clear where we are communicating from and understand who we are. So my name is Robert Ndiawarema, and I'm networking from Nakwero in Gayaza. That's where my home is. And I have been asked to talk about briefly and give a background about the Uganda National Parents Network, abbreviated as UNPN. So we came together around 2001, and we came with a vision of who we want to be. And our vision statement is building a new generation of parents who will raise new generations of youth with positive mindset, values, morals, and character, and who will make Uganda a great nation. Indeed, our nation, Uganda, we want to be great. But if our morals and values are negative all the time, then we are not making a good nation. So that's our vision, and we realized it came out of the background that many parents were negating their responsibility of taking care of their children. There were many absentee, especially men who would abandon their families and go for other things. So we came up with this vision. So our mission is strengthening families by promoting strong marriages, that's number one, but also building especially responsible fatherhood and bringing out people to understand, get skills of how they can manage their families. But also, we also say we need to have many people's mindsets change, basing on the values and character and the morals of the parents. But the most important thing is basing on the principle of truth. so that we become, as parents, become one model who will replicate themselves in their children to enable them to have what it takes to make Uganda a great nation, which is our vision. And so we've been at this, and we look at every other person to be part of us, irrespective of the race, their tribe, their political, their inclination, their social or religious background. But of course, being guided by that we are men and women. There is no other sex that we have. We only have men and women. Because we know now our culture is being infiltrated by people who want to change gender and become either homosexual, transgender, and so on. But for us, we stick on the creation of what God gave us, male and females. So we have two main objectives: revive and restore responsible fatherhood and parental responsibility among parents, but also to equip parents with positive parenting skills so that they can raise their children and the people they take care of. And for us, for parents, wherever they are, to become better role models for our children and other generations and our care. But we also have another objective of equipping parents with positive family values based on truth so that they can become better individuals, better parents, better spouses, and become a role model in the lives of their children by inculcating positive mindset so that they know people can live together in perfect union and be able to raise and prepare, become better individuals, better parents in Uganda. That will make. Hello? Are you hearing me?
Yes, Robert, you're loud and clear. Please proceed.
Okay,
Thanks.
so that was our third objective of equipping parents with positive family values based on truth, so that we'll be able to raise children of good morals with positive mindset and values that will also contribute in the future to their lives, so that they are able to make Uganda a great nation. Number 4 is empower parents so that they can effectively engage in advocacy on matters affecting families, children, parenting, morals, education, social services, etc. And in doing so, to make sure that the parents that are raised are responsible and caring for their families. But also to give information as another objective and empower parents with skills that will enable them to successfully parent their children in the context of globalization and global cultural welfare. You are aware that the world over is changing the way families should behave. They are bringing new things which they call new era, and they are coming to disorganize our families. So far, our principle is a family based on the creation of God. God created man and woman, and together they are able to make a family and produce children. Not any other. There is no other middle point. So it is, you are either a male or you are a female. There is nothing that is in between. So based on those objectives, we come up with a number of activities and programs, and one of them is creative parenting course, which have been running, and many people have undertaken this course over the years. And through this, many people have benefited, and they have become many parents. And we still continue to ask members to put interest in attending the parenting skill, because that's how they can move forward. And then attending monthly virtual parenting seminars like the one that now we are attending today, but also bringing parent-child seminars where we get parents and children come together so that we can talk to them and give talks to where we have been invited to institutions, churches, and other community gathering where we can talk about the parenting values and the skills, the way they can raise their children. We also have a counseling entity where we counsel marriages, also children, because especially nowadays, marriage is at stake. Many people are breaking their marriages because of different values. They are not based on the Bible. They are looking at values that the world is giving them, and then advocating for children protection in their families and improving their morals. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are the activities, and we want to appreciate the way our executive director and his wife, Stephen Langa, through the organization, have been able to move countrywide in many places to make sure that parents are becoming real parents and not counterfeit parents. So we would want to welcome you to this meeting this afternoon, this seminar that will keep our ears on the ground and listen to the people who are going to be presenting different aspects of raising parents who are parents that are bringing morals, that are bringing transformation, that are responsible parents that will make Uganda a nice country for us to live in. With that, I thank you, moderator, and I think I'll stop here to allow the seminar flow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert, for that great overview of the March Family Life Network is rolling out, but much more the existing opportunities that you can still tap in as we relate with Family Life Network to enhance our parenting capacities, how we handle our children, and also how we handle our relations within marriage. In case you have just joined, we were just having an overview from Robert about what is being delivered by Family Life Network, and also as an opportunity you can relate with that as well. And also we warmly welcome you if you just joined to this seminar of developing a reading culture in your children. Soon we'll have our session for panelists. But before we get to that, Family Life Network has been running several seminars for improving parents, the children, marriages, and we'd like to use this opportunity if anyone is online and would like just to share what past seminars have meant to you, how you've made use of them, how they are improving your life. Please feel free. You can raise your hand and then you'll be supported to be unmuted. So this is open to all of us, those who have attended any past seminar, and you'd use a minute or less just to share with us what has impacted you most. Thank you. Over to you, the participants. Yes, still as we look out for who may raise the hand and they get the support, also feel free to be typing into the chat if you have any specific question, inquiry, especially those who have just joined. You might have missed out on some set of information. We welcome you as well to use the chat because we're able to keep actively responding to anything that comes in. Thank you. So anyone, feel free if you want to share your side of progress based on a past seminar. Thanks. All right. In case you raise your hand and you've not been supported, you feel free to type in the chat still. That can lead our person to be able to unmute you. All right, if that is not being achieved right now, we can always have that slot along the way as we roll on. So at this point, I want to take an opportunity to invite Elder Langa to be able to introduce to us the panelists of the day and how this a presentation about developing a reading culture in your child or children, just like we know that many of you relate and impact many lives of children. So want to take that opportunity, Elder Langa, kindly, if you are able to come in at this point, kindly we can walk into the next. Then along the way, we'll create a spot for a testimony. Thank you. Over to you, Elder Langa.
Thank you very, very much, Martin, for moderating, and Sheila for moderating so well, and also to Robert for giving us the general overview of Family Life Network, and specifically Uganda National Parents Network, which is a baby of Family Life Network. The overall organization is Family Life Network. And out of that, several programs, several entities have come out, and the specific one for parents is one of them. We have others, for example, for youth, we have BANG, which stands for Becoming a New Generation, and others. So we are grateful that this is the arm of parenting. And we just want to say that between the last time that we met, because we have been meeting every month, we have been meeting every month, and since we've been meeting every month, between last month and now, something very, very significant happened to Beatrice, my dear wife, and I. And so I'd like to ask Beatrice, my dear wife, to just share with you briefly what happened to us as a couple between August, the last August meeting that we had, and now this September. Hannah, if you're able, just share briefly with
just letting you know that between the time we met and now, we have had twins. No, I'm just joking. Between August and now, we celebrated our 40th. I mean, between the last meeting and now, we celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary. It was on the 18th of August. We had a Thanksgiving service at our church, Watoto, and yeah, some of you were there, and we thank you very much for gracing our anniversary Thanksgiving service with your presence. Yeah, that's the big news. We didn't have twins. I think we are past that age. We also celebrated Steve's 70th birthday, which actually happened in June, but we saved the celebration so that we can have two big ones in August. Over.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. Admin, please help us handle that. Yes, so that's what happened, and we are really, really, really happy that we reached those milestones, to which we really give glory to God. We are also happy to see friends from beyond Uganda. Rebecca from South Africa, we met there in March, and we've been meeting virtually. Rebecca, we are so glad to have you from South Africa. Also, Daniel, we also have seen you. Really, really wonderful having you in this virtual meeting. We are so honored to have people from outside of Uganda. And it's because we have a common issue. Parenting is a common issue. Family is a common issue. You know, the family institution, marriage is a common issue. It cuts across humanity. And so we are all glad that we can be here today to learn together in this platform, which we thank God is available, and also which, you know, we are grateful for technology that has made this possible, that we can be in our living rooms, can be in our homes, and we're meeting with other like-minded people from across the country, the world. All right, so today, our topic is developing a reading culture in your children. Let me say that again because it's very, very, very critical. It's very, very important. Developing a reading culture in your children. And to take us through this very, very important subject, we have two very, very wonderful people. We have Mr. Dickson Tumuramye, and he will be saying a little more about himself in a little while. And also we have Jackie Rwande, who is an educator, to also share with us. These are very capable people and very knowledgeable on this subject. So the way we are going to go about it is we are going to actually, I'll be moderating and I'll be asking them questions and they'll be answering. That's the mode we are going to use this afternoon. So to kick the whole thing, before we kick it in, let us first know the people. So first, let me introduce Mr. Dickson. Now, Dickson is a marriage coach and counselor, family counselor. So, Dickson, why don't you take just a minute to say a little about yourself before we move forward. So, Dickson, please unmute and just give us a brief about yourself so people can know you a little more. Over to you, Dickson. Dickson, you can unmute. Technical people, can you please ensure that he is unmuted? Okay, while the technical people are handling that, maybe we can go to Jackie. All right, let's go to Jackie. Jackie, please introduce yourself.
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, is Dickson?
Yes, I'm now on. I can talk, I think.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay, so Dickson, let's have you first. Yeah, just
Yes,
tell us.
Thank you so much, Engineer. I am very honored to be here before you members. My name is Dickson Tumuramye. I am married to Prim Tumuramye, and together we've been married for the last 14 years, and we have 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl. Our firstborn is in senior 1, and then we have P6 and P4. And besides that, as Engineer introduced me, I am so much passionate about parenting. I'm a parenting coach. I also do marriage counseling, and also have a mentorship program for boys. We call it Men of Purpose. And also I have an organization that I run as executive director. It's called Hope Regeneration Africa. We take care of vulnerable children. We give them, we facilitate them with their education, help them in different ways. And also I work at Uganda National University as head of honors college. And this evening, I'm happy that we shall be sharing together about this wonderful topic concerning reading. Over to you, Engineer.
Thank you very, very much, Dickson. So we at least have an idea of who Dickson is, and that is very relevant. It gives him the platform or the place from which he can address us parents. Good, thank you very much. All right, next we move to Jackie. Jackie Rwande, please take the microphone. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am very glad to be here. I am an educator. I have been at it for the last 28 years. My experience is mostly with the early years and primary schools. I have 24 years of experience in senior management in international schools. And 10 years ago, the Lord led me to move to Entebbe to start a school, Christian school, which we have been running for the last 9 years. And on the 16th of August this year, we started our 10th year. I am very privileged to have worked with families from various backgrounds, ages, and along the way, it has been amazing, just learning, growing, and yet also having an opportunity to impact the future generation. When not teaching, I'm very involved in the community. I'm a member of Watoto Church. I lead the marketplace team at Watoto Church in Entebbe. I also serve on the deacons team. I'm also very involved in sales and in the people around me. I love children. I love families. And my calling is specifically shaping the future for the next generation. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much, Jackie. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see that actually the vision of Jackie and the vision of Dixon fit in very well with our vision as Family Life Network and Uganda National Parents Network, because we are parenting children for the next generation. Okay, we are raising parents rather who will parent children who will take Uganda and Africa to the next level. In other words, you're not just parenting for the sake of it, just take you to school just for the sake of it. But we have a goal, and I'm seeing that our panelists actually have the same goal. All right, now we go to the subject matter. Developing a reading culture in your children. Before we allow our panelists to say something, I just want, as I was reading about this topic, I came across the following quotations. The first one is a quotation that says that a reading nation is a winning nation. And then I got another one that says that the world belongs to those who read. Can you imagine that? The world belongs to those who read. And then another one, which is not so pleasant, says that if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. Put it in a book. In other words, it looks like black people either find it difficult or whatever, or have a challenge with reading. And yet now we are seeing that a reading nation is a winning nation. And also we are seeing that the world belongs to those who read. So to begin our discussion today, let me begin with Rwanda, Jackie Rwanda. What is the state of the situation? In other words, when you look at Uganda, yes, you've been in the education sector for 28 years. When you look around, if you look at the bird's eye view, you're at 30,000 feet up and you're looking down. When you look at the view of reading in Uganda as a people, what do you see? What kind of picture do you see? Just a general bird's eye view of reading in Uganda. Over to you, Jeff.
That's a very good question. Now, when I look at our country, I see over 15 million children spread across this beautiful nation, eager and hungry to learn. But also, as I look around, I see schools everywhere. Little schools, big schools, medium-sized schools. But I also see a scarcity of opportunities to read. there is scarcity for opportunities to read. A lot of children do not have access to reading material. But even those who do have access to reading material, the enthusiasm is minimal. The enthusiasm is minimal. And I see books for those the few who have opportunity and access to them, but they are dusty. They're dusty because they are not used as often as they should. But even in there, there's a little light. There's a little light. You can see a light somewhere. There is change coming. There is change coming. You can see a light that is beginning to spread. And the hope is that if we can spread it, we can turn around the situation. So we need to do something to develop a culture of reading in our country, because it's almost non-existent. In the city, there's a light. There is a light.
Thank you very, very much, Jackie. That was a very profound response, and it gives us a general picture of the situation. Let me ask Dixon. Dixon, from your point of view, or from your perspective, or from your desk there as a parenting coach and all that, what do you see from your angle, from your platform? What do you see in as far as reading culture is concerned? Over to you, Dixon.
Thank you so much, Engineer. I think I would want to begin stating that our reading culture is still not so good, especially from, you already made a comment that if you haven't heard something from an African, put it in writing. Of course, it's not a good comment, I mean, it's a negative one. But you also want to gain it from there. That our reading culture is not that so good, because from our backgrounds and upbringing, we are raised and trained to reading specifically for school, where we are just aiming at academic achievement. And so we don't take this other side of reading for development or for sharpening a child's brain or mind. All our focus for our children is to make sure that they go in school, they learn from class, they study, they pass their exams, they have high grades, and they keep progressing like that. So this training of children to read magazines and other inspirational books that can inspire them in life as they are growing up is not so much in us. Though somehow now we have at least exposure with some libraries in schools. Some schools now have libraries, even in primary schools, and have started stocking books in their libraries. Parents are buying books and also putting them in their homes. Others are now also inspiring their children to start reading. We have people who have passion for reading on their own. So we can say at least there's a difference and improvement in reading culture. But on a general perspective, from what I've heard from many parents and what we can really know, I don't think many people like reading. And also from my own experience, as I share, because I'm a writer and I'm a columnist with New Vision, and also write Daily Monitor and Observer and other papers where I talk about parenting, and also I share my articles on social media. And sometimes someone says, this is a long text, I don't think I can have enough time to read this. So some people look at reading as a waste of time, or if they want to read, they want small texts or even bullets, but not many paragraphs. If you have any article that is beyond 300 words, people struggle reading all that. So it is still a struggle, but at least there's some hope that it's not all in vain.
Thank you very much, Dixon, for that. Now, Jackie, help us. yes, we seem to see that reading is good, it's advantageous, and so on. Tell us, what is the advantage? What really, why should we have a reading culture? Why? Okay, I've just made some quotations there, which I found out, but why should we get a reading culture? Why is it important to develop a reading culture? Why don't we just continue business as usual? Help us, Jackie, to understand that.
So there are so many benefits. There are so many benefits. And the one that I'll start with right at the top is brain stimulation. You know, the brain is like a muscle. The more we use it, the better it gets. And there's no better way to stimulate the brain than to read. It's the easiest way. It's very accessible, and you can do it without even having to pay for it. So it's a great brain stimulant. Reading also extends vocabulary. The more you read, the more enriched your vocabulary will be. And when we have our children reading younger, we are giving them lots of opportunity to extend their vocabulary, which then means that they can express themselves better. They can share their opinions and ideas confidently because they have language. So reading is great at doing that. Of course, it also boosts creativity, imagination, because when you read, you go to places you may not necessarily be able to go, afford to go, but when you read, you learn about nations, you learn about cultures, you learn about people. When you read, especially if you read arranged, diversely, nonfiction, fiction, your creativity, your imagination is extended. So there's lots of opportunity there. Reading also can help children grow and develop their emotional intelligence and probably empathy, because as you read, you sometimes even through stories, you begin to see there are things you might not be able to explain to children, but as they read, as they're brought out in stories, they begin to understand. So that's what sad means. That's how it looks to be excited. So you're helping children grow, develop as they do that. There's lots of opportunity. Today, we have a lot of issues with mental illness, mental breakdowns. Reading can help reduce that. Reading is a good way to help reduce that. There's developing skills academically as well. If you're a reader, your interpretation of texts becomes easier. And usually I have seen children who do well in subjects, in the academic subjects, also tend to be quite good readers. Children who are able to reason, who are able to give good judgment, to defend their arguments, it's because they have language. And language, apart from conversations, also develops faster through reading. So when you're reading and giving your children opportunities to read, you're also giving them opportunities to be able to hold meaningful conversations with other people, to defend their arguments, but also you're giving them an edge in their academics. Even if it's things like math, you know, I've met a lot of people who say, but math is just numbers. But sometimes when you're reading, to interpret those numbers, it helps if you have language. If you have to write exams, if you have to write tests, interpreting those questions requires that you have good understanding of language or vocabulary. So the more children read, the better they get at that. And of course, in some places, in some countries, you know, we have seen that the more literate a nation is, the more literate an economy and people of a nation are, the stronger the economy, because then you begin to see more innovation. You begin to see more invention, because as children read nonfiction books and read about people who have done things in the past, like Armstrong, like Albert Einstein, and all those amazing people, you begin to see inspiration. They're inspired to do better, to do things. So just to mention but a few, I mean, we could be here the whole evening if I had to tell you about why we should read, but those are just some of the benefits. Yeah.
Wow, 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 wow. I mean, this is incredible. Jackie, you've really hit the nail on the top. My mind, as you are talking, went to Ben Carson. Ben Carson, the man who is the greatest neurosurgeon in the whole world. I heard him give his story, how his illiterate mother, who couldn't read and write, encouraged them to read. And of course, at first, he was like, I don't want to read, this, but she put her foot down and forced those boys to read. And he said that as they read more, his knowledge base began to increase. And he actually says that his trajectory changed. That when you start reading, when a child starts reading, their trajectory means, their orbit changes, completely. And actually, that's what explains how he ended up being the best neurosurgeon. Before I leave you, Jackie, do you have any comment on that?
On Ben Carson?
Yes. And on the thing that you can change your trajectory of a child, of a person.
Yes, totally. I totally agree. I have watched the movie, Ben Carson's movie, his biography. I've watched that, and I do agree. I was having a conversation with a friend and saying to them how reading empowers children and how it changes how they think, it changes how they view life. And if I'm to just draw from my experience with working with children and reading, there's a little girl who on arrival was just very timid and very shy. And she joined us when she was just 4 years old. She didn't know how to read at the time. We began to work on it, but when we were teaching children how to read, we're not just teaching them how to read, but we're also very deliberate on making sure that there's a passion and an enthusiasm towards books. So we're not giving you just skills to be able to decode letters and sentences or words, but we want children to just develop a passion for books. And by the time this girl was 7, 8, her mom said to me, even at home, she's under covers, she's under beds, just reading. Everybody will be running around and she's picking a book to read. But today, she's a very well-spoken, very confident. She's out, she's willing to try a range of things. Previously very shy and very unsure of herself and not wanting to venture in a lot of things. But just from reading some of the books and seeing how people's lives have changed, she has gained a confidence. Now she's trying a range of things. She's trying swimming, she's trying basketball, she's trying everything. And even when towards competition, there's a fear, sometimes she's picking up on a story she has read and she's reminded of that and she goes. So I have seen children become confident and probably would have never hit certain heights, but because of the reading and the confidence that has come out of that, on a small scale, not like on, Ben Carson's scale. Probably by the time they're his age, they'll be there. But yes, I have seen that happen, even here in Uganda. It's not just out there in the States and in Europe. Even in Uganda, I have seen that happen.
Good. Thank you very much for that. Well, Dixon, evidently, it looks like, yes, the child, when they get to read and they're given a passion for books and so on, great things happen. Now, what role can a parent play? What role can a parent play? And maybe before we go to what role, first of all, our parents in Uganda, do you think they know what we are talking about here? For example, what we just covered in the last 20 or so minutes or 30. Our parents aware of this, and then what can they do to help their children develop a reading culture? Over to you.
I want to say that I think some parents do not know the impact of reading on their children's lives. And as you can see how Jack was stating it, and from Ben Castle's example, whether you're educated or not, you can still influence your children to read and become very great people in our society. And so I think we are not so much exposed to that extent of helping our children to read. If it's not like your own passion to reading, you also don't take it serious to help your children develop that talent of reading. Yet, reading has a lot of advantages, because even if, I'm sure even all of us here, those who have been able to read, you've been able also to discover who you are, that kind of self-awareness, that if you knew who you are through reading, then you should also be passing on the same to your children. So I think parents, that's our role, that we need to be helping our children, that even if it's not your passion, even if you don't have interest in reading, but now that you are going to be here this day and understand how reading is very important in the life of your children, it is important you start now interesting your children to start reading. And there's so many ways that you can do that. You can, first of all, start interesting them by reading with them. If you have, especially if you have like toddlers, the young children who are in below 6 years, before they go to sleep, you can always have a story to tell them. Like for me, I remember when I was growing up, my parents did not read for us, but they always told us stories, and they would say, when we were growing up, there was this book in our primary we used to read. They used to tell us more stories about Kapere. We hear so many stories, and we're like, these are big things. Now imagine if they would tell us that, go and read this story in this book. I'm sure I would have looked for such a kind of a book, because they have always had interesting stories. So even you can read, you can look for some interesting books and you read for your children. These days, there are so many books, even with very small volumes of like even 10 pages or even less, that you can just buy, and then you just sit down with your child or children, depending on how many you have, and you read for them. I was thinking one boy came with a magazine from his school, and immediately he reached at home, he gave it to his siblings. And since the school ended last week, but he first went for SU conference, then he came on Friday evening. But they are all now reading that magazine, because there are so many interesting stories and jokes and everything. We got a visitor yesterday, and they were taking her through all these stories. So you see that it takes us, especially now, people as parents, to expose our children to that kind of reading, because we have done the same, and they always look forward to whatever we bring to them, make sure they read something and understand. So we must be examples in encouraging our children, but also if you can also start reading, because I'm sure if a child sees you reading, 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 1 says, imitate me as I imitate Christ. Now, imagine you are telling your children, my children, look at me, the way I like reading. There's this good story, there's this good book, and this chapter talks about this, and I think it can be of great value to you. I'm sure our children can learn something. I know that some of us here, we always watch many things here and there, even now on social media, and then sometimes you want to invite your children and watch with them. Now imagine, what if you're using the same energy to put it into reading, and you read with them. So the issue of being an example, issue of being a role model, but also as parents, we need to guide them in knowing what they should read, because children can have a lot of ambitions, and maybe sometimes some of them may not be, whatever they want to read may not be in line with your Christian values or family values. So it is us to give them that parental guidance and support of saying, no, this that you want to read is not good for you. As a Christian, as a child of God, I think this, you don't need to read this. Take this or read this. But again, it's us to make sure to expose our children to knowing how and what they should read and from where. If you don't have a library at home, at least the libraries around us. Maybe that we don't have many public libraries in Uganda. Like for me, who stays in Mukono, I don't think we have any public library in Mukono unless we go to Kampala. But there's some There's some like sometimes we who works at UCU, I also formerly worked at UCU. There's a library where a children's library where we always took our children to borrow books and read from. Again, now there are bookstores everywhere. We have those ones are in every state, in every town. That those bookstores where you can go with your children and you walk around the shelves and you open these books. Some of them may not be knowing maybe what they want, or even us as sometimes you just go there and say, let me go and look around and see what I can pick from these shelves, so they can go back home and read. So we can go there and you take a child, you say, what about this book? Look at this topic, look at this title, look at this then maybe say, look at this biography, it says this and that. Do you think it can be of good interest? Or you can ask them, what would you want to read? Why is your passion? If you don't know the passion of your child, or if your child is so much passionate about sports or games or music or engineering or whichever, you can just go and look for those books which speak in the life of your child's interest. And I want to assure you that will be very great. But also, as parents, we also need to make sure that as we are parenting these children at every age group or at every level, do not miss any opportunity. Even when your child right now is at a university, you can again interest them in reading, tell them what they should read. For you who's already a reader, you can tell them that I was reading this book and I think you need to come and pick it from home if the child is not staying with you. You know, when I always think about when we're talking about children, we're talking about the ones who are under below 18 years, but whoever is still in your custody. But also, as long as that child is yours, you are the biological parent or the guardian, is still a child. Even me at my 42 years, I'm still a child to my father. So you can still trust your child and say, I am reading this book, please come and borrow it and read it. And that also is another opportunity that can help our children. I also want to say that we should minimize gadgets in our homes. Parents, this is a call that all of us should really think about, because gadgets can distract children. They cause distraction in children's mind. They cause also they lead to a lot of loss of concentration, because as a child is watching something like even like on TV, they are watching something that is good, and then something else comes up, and then they lose concentration of what they were watching, and another thing comes in, and before they know it, another advert, before they know it, something else comes in. So they cannot concentrate like if someone was reading a book and is looking through chapters consistently. So I want to say that it's good for us to minimize gadgets and help our children to have more time on screen, I mean on books. Or if you feel like you need to stop gadgets in your homes, another alternative that you could think about, because some of us sometimes we deny our children certain things without giving them alternatives, and then they think, this is injustice, I think I need to go back to their thing. So I would say that if you feel you want to change and minimize gadgets in your home, another best alternative could be giving them books which are in line with what they like, or which you feel can help them sharpen their mind, stimulate their intellectual ability, their emotional intelligence. All these can help your children to become better and better. And before you know it, you have a child who's like Dr. Ben, who's now a great neurosurgeon. And when you read his book, surely, and you get to understand his background, you feel like, wow, whether you're educated or not educated, we can still change. We can still change the situation around us and inspire children to become great readers.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much, Dixon. You know, as Dixon was speaking, I was just imagining as a family, you can say Thursday evening after dinner, maybe we eat dinner at 7 o'clock. After that, everybody with their book. Daddy with the book, the mommy one, you know, the little boys, the little girls, everybody's reading. I mean, I think that can be a wonderful, wonderful picture. All right.
Even Bible study. Even
yeah.
Bible study is a good way to read as a family.
Oh, yes, that's right. Absolutely. You read together and you take turns to read the scriptures. You know, the little ones also read and the older ones read. The idea is to get that culture of reading. Whatever it is that can make that possible, I think we go for it. Wonderful. Now,
actually, on that
before
point,
we go for a break,
Engineer,
yes.
On that point, I can say what we're also doing as a family, as Jack has mentioned, to encourage our children to become great readers of the Word of God, is to always challenge them to memorize the Bible. Like every time we are going somewhere, we are in the car, we begin with the prayers, and then when I'm taking them to school, each one of us has a turn of preaching. Also at home in our family devotions, we always have that turn of preaching. So it's not only the adults who are preaching, but all of us, we have our own day of preaching. But also we always encourage our children to be the preachers. Then again, in a car, we always encourage them to memorize. All of us, as long as we're going to church or somewhere, we memorize scriptures. That means if you don't know the scriptures that you're going to memorize the next day, it forces you to go and to go back and read the Bible. So even as parents, we get challenged because we memorize more than 10 verses as long as we are together, and it's a time of memorizing scriptures. And there's that competition. So we always make it a competition or fun, and then before you know it, you're learning from each other different verses and different things. So yes, family devotions empower a lot with the reading culture, and especially if you can focus on some biblical stories and you look at the personalities. You can look at the example of David, you can look at Samson, you can look at Joseph, you can look at Gideon. Our children, my second born is called David. He has read about David because we taught him what David did and why we called him that name, a man after God's own heart, but he was also king, and so many things that he did, including killing Goliath. Our daughter is called Deborah, and we told her what Deborah did in the Bible, how she led the Israelites and fought battles and won them, and then challenged Gideon. So we've always told them different stories, and when children are knowing the characters in the Bible, it also inspires to know more about them, and of course that helps them to understand the Bible, to know what the Bible is all about. So yes, family devotions and reading the Bible together, that one as Christians, we should not underrate it in our homes.
Thank you very, very, very much. Now, Jackie, how can schools help inspire the children to have that interest in reading, to have that desire, to have that passion for reading? How can that be inculcated in a child from the school side?
There are a lot of things. There are a lot of things we can do. And as I speak about that, I'm thinking about the whole of Uganda. So I'll probably start from the more affluent side and then work towards those who may not have access to resources. For schools that are able, just make sure you have a library. But beyond having a school library, it's wonderful to have book corners in the classrooms. Have book corners, because when you have book corners in the classrooms or book nooks or little exciting reading areas in the classroom, the books are easily accessible to the children. That means anytime a child can walk to that corner or the area, pick up a book and read. So make books accessible. And I know that now we have a lot of technology and everything, but I will tell you that children still enjoy picking up a book, opening those pages, looking at it, reading it. They still love to just pick up a novel and read. So let's avail books, both virtually and hard copies, although I would still recommend that we minimize screen time as much as possible, because we also know that the disadvantages of poor concentration and low attention spans. So let's avail books, create exciting book corners. The other thing we can do is just have book celebration days or weeks or a book month. So you can have things like book weeks, a week where you just focus on books. And if that week is made exciting, you could have things where you blow a whistle, everybody stops, they pick up a book and read. You could have them dress as characters. You could have them share what they're doing, have bookmaking opportunities. Now, having days where you have like big book celebrations are exciting, but you'll be amazed at how it just triggers reading. And children will go back home and say, I want a book, I want to read. Encourage children to exchange books with families, with friends. And when you're doing that, for those who do not have books at home, will begin to buy, or allow them to borrow from school and exchange with another friend or a cousin in another school. Give them permission to do that. They can have book exchanges. So creating activities in schools that celebrate reading are a great way to enthuse children about reading. Now, we might have people who say, but oh, we don't have resources, we don't have money to buy the books. Fundraisers are good, but teachers can make books. Teachers can write stories. One of the things when you're at the university doing the education course, there's usually a unit on making resources. As teachers, we have a slogan that we turn waste to wealth. And we can do that. You can go to the internet, find amazing stories, get old newspapers, get books, sit together with children and say, let's make a book. Older children can write stories for younger children. Older children could write nonfiction books about what they're learning. So if you're learning about the respiratory system, you can write a book about the respiratory system, and the younger children will have an opportunity to read that. And it can even be recycled paper. It can be cardboards. You can do anything. You can create texts anywhere. You can create. It may not even be a book, but you can create opportunities for children to read. You can say, in this portion of our classroom, this wall is going to be our reading wall, and encourage everybody to write a story and stick it there and have them read each other's stories. Encourage even teachers to do that. The things you teach, put them in little books that children can pick up in corners. So I feel that there's no excuse for not providing opportunities for our children to read within school, especially as teachers, because we're supposed to be creators, we're supposed to be innovators, and doing that means using what's around us. And we can use anything. We can use cardboard. Don't throw empty boxes away. If you see it by the roadside, pick it up. It will help clean our nation. It will help it keep clean. Let's turn all those things that we can use into books. Imagine if you picked up boxes they have thrown by the roadside, allow them to dry, clean them up, cut them up, get thread, and make a book, use that as a bind to bind the book together, and then write a title and let the children be authors. There's lots of opportunity to read. There's lots and lots of opportunity, and we can do that in school. Let's create reading corners. Let's encourage reading buddies, have children pair up, and hold each other accountable. There's something we do when we have book week, when we were celebrating books. We have what we call reading minutes. So every child takes a journal home, and their parent has to record how long they have read. And then at the end of the week, the person who has the most hours or minutes read in the week gets a gift. So we could do things like that at school to encourage and reward those who are reading. You can have evenings where you say we're having reading evenings, invite parents in, grandparents in, you all sit around a fire and take turns reading stories to the children. Have children read, have parents read, have grandchildren read. And one of the things that encourages children to read is when they stop seeing it as something adults make them do, but they begin to see it as a way of life. And the only way children begin to see it as a way of life is when they see us read. So if you're a teacher trying to get your children reading, please make sure you're a reader. Make sure you're reading a book yourself, and tell them about the books you're reading. Tell them about the things you're learning from the books you're reading. But let the children see us read. Even when you're just reading a recipe, read it in front of the children. If, sometimes we pick up books and we want to read the blurb, be intentional on that. Read it out aloud, and they will pick up on that. When you have resources that have arrived and you're trying to figure out the instructions on how to use those resources in the classroom, read them aloud or invite the children to read with you so that they begin to see that reading is for purpose. It's an application in daily life and not just a thing that these adults want us to do or the teacher wants you to do so that you can pass your exams. It should never be just tied to getting the 4 in PLE or passing your O-levels. Children need to see that this is a way of life, that it's what we do in life, and it's a basic skill for life. And teachers have a big role, schools have a big role to play in that, based on how we make it applicable in our everyday life. Over to you, Mr. Langa.
Thank you. Very good, very good. This is really, really wonderful conversation. Now, before we give you a chance as the audience to share, to also give an input or to ask, I want to ask Dixon. A parent may be there now in this webinar, and they realize, oh my gosh, I have not been intentional. I have not taken reading very seriously with my children and all that. What steps can they take from now? What steps can a parent do? Practical steps, to really start getting their children into the culture of reading. Before we get now the questions from the audience, Dixon, help us with that.
I will repeat some of the things that I already mentioned, that we can have books in our homes. You can have a family library, however small it could be, but it makes a difference. So you can always ask them what they would want to read, their imaginations, or anything. And then you go, if you don't go with them, that's you move around these bookshops or in the library around you, and then you look for these books that you can either buy or borrow. If you have a library, maybe a school nearby, and they have these books, you can go even actually talk to the headmaster, and you either take your children there, or you always borrow books from there, or you can choose to buy these books from there and have them in your home, or you can look for some of these books according to your interests. And if you can manage printing them out, and I'm talking about online books, which are free, by the way. They have some free materials online now, and then you print and then bind and take them to your home and give them to read. For us who are still having some young children, I can also say, if you always buy newspapers, or if you always access newspapers, those puzzles within those newspapers, please always make sure that you take them at home and you give them to your children. Let them do those puzzles, actually, because they help their mind, estimate their brain so much, and then they get to become imaginative and creative and innovative, whatever they are doing. You can always give them total, these materials around us. And then also, as a parent, you can also always make sure that you around you, if you can. I want to talk about encouraging them to join clubs, reading clubs or book clubs. It can be done in our homes, or it can be done in our community, in our surrounding, that we can encourage either some of the children around us, or maybe from church or from school. We can encourage schools to form book clubs, and we encourage children to always come and like every holiday or every Saturday or Sunday, they have like 2 hours of coming together. Then they are reviewing a book, they read it together, and you see how they're developing. Or if you've given them a book to read, and as they are reading it, ask them, what are you reading? What is it all about? So they can summarize for you, then they can tell you what they're understanding, and then you ask them questions, and then you listen to their stories. Actually, when the more a child is reading a material and you ask them what they are reading and how and what are the interesting things, children, they love storytelling. They will tell you, daddy, mommy, like, and this one, it doesn't matter whether someone is young or old. All of us like to sit and listen. So the children will always be there to tell us stories of what they are reading and how they are excited and how they're helping them. Yeah, also, Another good way of is create a schedule. Make sure that you have a schedule in your home so that you can say, on this day we're going to be reading this. On this day, this is going to happen like this. Even among the chores, now that children are back in a whole day, among their chores daily, let there be a time of reading. And of course, I want to discourage parents who pamper their children with a lot of coaching throughout. In that coaching, you can also create time for them to have time for reading their books or materials or novels and magazine, whatever they have around them. That also gives them an opportunity to learn how to read. As a parent, you can also read for your child, and if you're not there, if maybe both of you as a couple can read together a certain book, and if one of you is not there, then another one can do it. Or if you don't have time, maybe both of you are not there that very day, you can ask if you have a home caretaker who knows how to read. You can trust that person and say, by the way, I'm not at home at this time, but for my young children, read this. Then for the old ones, you tell them, you're going to be reading this, and when we come back, we're going to begin from there and we'll review this together. Again, I want to emphasize we can minimize on screen time and promote reading culture intentionally. It takes intentionality, it takes commitment. Reading can be boring at some point, but if you're committed and you're consistent and you develop this culture in them, it can work. Also, spread the books around them. I like what Deuteronomy chapter 6 from verse 6 up to 11 says, when God was telling the Israelites on how they should train their children concerning the laws. It said, put them on the doorposts and everywhere. So we can also put some of these reading materials that are more interesting to children on our doorposts in their bedrooms. There's a time when my children put newspapers around their rooms. At some point, we felt like they were, darkening their rooms, even including our sitting room, but we were like, why? This is how they are developing their culture. Why should we punish them for that? And I tell you right now, they are good at reading, especially when it was COVID. They were cutting all newspapers that we had in their house. They would make their bedroom very dark, and you come and say, what is happening? Little did you know that we almost keep their reading interests and discipline. And now they are not struggling with reading and setting them out. And of course, even with our new curriculum in lower secondary, where they're emphasizing child-focused and competence-based education and research. If your child is not a good reader, I want to assure that they won't struggle in reading on their own. So it's better we do this and encourage them to start reading on their own, so that when they go and they're asked to work on their projects, they're not going to find it very hard, because already it's something that is already inclined in them. And so that will help them to find it easier to do research, to read and do their homework very fast. And of course, for those who are in international schools, they're better than us, because reading on their own is part of what they are doing, so that they're better off than our children who are in traditional schools, where we don't emphasize reading so much on our own. So we can stop spoon feeding, especially even our schools now, and emphasize reading on their own, and then avail these materials for them, and we'll be able to help our children to become better readers.
Okay, good, wonderful. I think we've had a bit, at least we have an idea now from our panelists. So now I want to give a chance to the audience so that can give your input, because as adults, we know that you have information on the subject matter, and but in case there's a gap, you want a clarification and so on. So I'll hand the meeting back to the moderators to take us beyond this. So over to you, moderator.
Thank you so much, our panelists from Dixon and Jackie, and Mr. Langa for moderating that session. We thank you so much. Right now we're opening up if you have any questions, but maybe before I get some of them, I could just run through one of the highlights of the questions in place. One said that thank you for the very good information, and was wondering if there are any libraries where one can borrow books. So just a recommendation from one of our panelists or anyone on the online. And of course, this one, to a great extent, Jackie tackled it, in what ways we can increase the passion for reading, especially in this technological era. And thank you so much, many of you who are equally placing in a lot of information on the chat is quite very helpful and kind of you in such a way that we are all into this. So kindly raise your hand if you're able, then one of our persons will be able to support you to unmute. I can see David is up. Please, one can unmute David.
Hello.
Yes, please proceed kindly proceed. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry. I know I used, I didn't know my identity was showing as David. But thank you very much, our dear presenters, for this critical topic. Thank you so much, Family Network, for your contribution in the parenting sector. My name is Catherine Ruhweza. I am a publisher of children's books. I have a publishing company called Andika Publishers. I just want to point out some things that I have discovered as I try to sell my books among the schools in Kampala. I would like to say that the schools in Kampala, many, especially the private schools, many of them don't put emphasis on growing their libraries at all. They will have big budgets. They will have big budgets for throwing a party for children at the end of term, where children come, they bring singers, they dance, they do this. But when you look at their school budgets for restocking their libraries on a termly basis, it's a meager 30,000, it's a meager 50,000, it's a meager 100,000. And these are schools with thousands of children. These are schools where parents are paying millions of shillings for children to come to school to learn. They leave most of the responsibility to the parents. You know, they want the parents to buy the books. Those are parents. As a school, the attachment to reading in many private schools in Kampala, especially in primary, where I have gone to try and sell my books, they don't have at all impressive budgets for growing their libraries. So they don't know their importance in the chain of reading in Uganda. They don't know that most of us found the books we got interested in reading from school. So with such a meager budget, you know, they are doing very little. They are doing, and also you can see it from the size of their libraries. In some schools, the library is the smallest room they have on their compound. All other rooms, entertainment rooms, they are big. But if you come to the library, children are squeezing, they don't know where to sit. So, I mean, the attitude towards reading right from the schools, some of it is pathetic, especially the local schools, you know. So my encouragement is that the parents, you can do something by advocating. You look at the budget of entertainment at school, it's very big. You look at the budget of buying reading books for children, it is very low, you know, it is very low. And some of the schools which put money in reading, for example, I'll tell you, a school like Aga Khan, some parents like it because they say that they encourage children to read. Now, such books, such schools, if the local section, children read more, they emphasize on reading. So you find their budget bigger. So that is something that as parents, we can demand that schools increase their budget for school library books. Because our children are likely to find those books in the library. So then secondly, another thing, even the parents need to be educated. And this is why this seminar is very important, how important reading is. Many times when I've gone to sell my books at a school, for example, my desk is next to someone who's selling toys. A parent brings a 3-year-old and says, between the book and the toy, what do you want to buy? And you're like, man, God. I'm like, I try to labor and explain. And I'm like, man, do the parents really understand how this can transform a child's mind? So a parent will buy sweets and chocolates, which are even up to 10,000, and will not buy a small book, which is 5,000, which will help the children. So we have those two problems that I can see as from my experience in moving around in Kampala schools. I have found those as some of the challenges we have affecting our reading cultures. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot from you, Catherine, for really sharing. We are all into this journey to see how some of these things can be made better. I wish also to add to the list of questions. Proscovia, I can see your hand up, but before maybe you come in, let me read another question for the interest of the panelists, then please you'll come in. To our panelists and of course to the rest of us, the other question was, how can we begin to collectively address this wrong pattern whereby a school makes you buy books, but they never create that time for those children? So still, that's part of what we need to support each other. How do we go about that? Over to you, Proscovia. Please come in with your contribution. Thank you. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Martin, and thank you everyone who's contributed to this very enriching topic. I think Family Life Network too for picking up this topic for us to reflect on in a very positive way. I would like to say that, so my name is Proscovia. I'm a parent. I am a medical doctor and a children's doctor as well. And I'm also a heart doctor. So a lot of what I do, the background of my training is to make sure that patients and heart conditions can actually support it to develop and increasing awareness of what's going on with their children and empower them. Perspective, I have somehow intuitively seem to have done
Looks like Proscovia has a
Proscovia, we have a challenge about your clarity of your network, but you would encourage you could as well maximize the chat, but also once you are sure it is stable, still we would like so much to receive your submission. I'm not so sure if she hasn't even dropped off, but if we have another person, kindly also raise your hand and we get your contribution to this. Thank you. Still we are together and time is not in our favor. I can see Angie K from Indonesia has raised her hand. Please proceed. You'll be supposed to unmute. Angie, please proceed. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Angie or Angela, and I'm a teacher by profession. I really like the topic about encouraging reading. I think, especially when we speak about it in the context of our country, Uganda, it's really crucial for teachers to model it and also parents to model it. I could see in the chat some people were asking what kind of, how can we help to build that culture in schools as well? Because I think some of the major problems we have is the fact that we don't have enough resources maybe, or the libraries are not really resourced. So I think we can also take advantage of some of the materials that we have, whether it's like magazines or newspapers, and just help students learn how to read. But also, a couple of days ago, I've been working with my students on a certain unit on adventure stories, and I realized the importance of helping them to read with purpose. Because sometimes the reason as to why students don't have interest to read is because they don't know how to read with purpose. They don't know how to read using context clues. So I think really putting emphasis on helping them understand, why am I reading? What am I looking for as I'm reading? What is the purpose? So someone mentioned like asking them questions, what is happening in the story? All that is going to help them to be able to read with purpose. And as for resources, there are certain free libraries online. However, sometimes it requires students to use devices, but also I think maybe the teachers can print it out and then they can just give them a text to read, highlight it, practice it at home, take it maybe with them at home and encourage parents to ask them to read it out loud, because that is also another important part of them being able to express themselves. But I definitely agree that it's something that we need to really, really encourage, because also knowing our kind of education system, most times we read to memorize because of the kind of maybe tests that we're taking. So helping students to, again, go back to why am I reading is really going to be helpful. Even as they're doing their research, they're able to express themselves, to express their opinions as well.
Thank you so much, Angie, for that input. This is quite helpful, and of course, this is like preparing a buffet whereby we want to get the best of it from all different angles, such that we consume what is most appropriate for our situation. So thanks a lot, and to the many of you who have kept also putting more contributions and questions on the chat, that's great. To our panelists, I will also highlight another question that has come in, that to guide us on the types of books to buy apart from the academic books. And since we have about 20 minutes ahead of us, at this point, I will request our panelists to pick up any key feedback based on the questions and contributions before we step into the next aspect. Over to you, Jackie and Dixon. Thank you.
I'm really, I could feel Catherine's passion when, and almost frustration as she talked about trying to sell her books to schools. I think it takes us back to what Mr. Langa said at the start, that if you want to hide information from an African, put it in a book. I don't think it's just the schools, and it's not even just the private schools. I think it's our society. It's a society that doesn't read, because these school owners are not coming from Timbuktu or Bombay. They are Ugandans from the Ugandan pool that does not read, that does not value books. And so if you have schools that have very small libraries, 30,000 budget for books, it just tells you about who we are as a nation. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation as parents, because then we can go back and say, what are we going to do to improve our society? Because that's just a reflection of what Uganda is. Those schools are a reflection of our community because they come from this pool. Those school owners are from this pool, Uganda, and they're running. So you have people who don't value books, but value school entertainments and musicians. And if they're private schools and the owners are not even educators, they're making money. And so they're going to go for what makes the money. They're going to opt for the things that bring the money in. And yes, parents play a huge role in bringing the difference, because a lot of those schools, unless their feet are firmly grounded, A lot of them dance to what the parents want. A lot of them are dancing to what the families are demanding for. And so if you're not asking for reading, if you're not asking for books, they're not going to do that because they want to keep you as a client. They want to retain you. So one of the things I would say is let's be deliberate. Let's start as families. Let's build this culture at home, this reading culture at home. And then our children are going to go to school demanding for books or asking for books or requesting for books. And then the teachers will see the need, the desire. But unfortunately, the school owners, the teachers, they're all from this pool, the Ugandan pool, which generally doesn't like reading. And so they're not going to prioritize it. But us having this conversation is an encouragement because it's a beginning. It shows that we are on the right track. And if after here we all go back and just do something in our homes, if we just go back and look around and say, does my home say reading? Does it encourage reading? Let's start there. Let's also be the first to say, will I go back to my school and speak to my child's teacher? Will I go back to the school and speak to the principal, to the head of school about reading? Don't let it pass. Don't complain and do nothing about it. So if you complain about something, walk to the school. And sometimes they're unaware. So sometimes they haven't thought about it. They think they're pleasing you by having toys. And then on birthdays, start by buying your child a book. Don't buy them toys. Then the next time you have somebody selling books at school, your child will choose to buy a book. I gave you an example of the little girl who joined us at 4. She's not driven by peer pressure or influence. When she wants to read, she wants to read, and it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing, and she'll choose a book over anything else unless you insist that she does something else. So let's be deliberate as parents to make sure that these values, these things we believe in, these things we say are important, we are actually showing our children that they are important. Let's model it and say, as the Luande homes, we read. And because we read, every month in our budget, we shall put 50,000 aside, go to Aristoc and buy a book. Let's start there. Can we start there as a family? Can we start by budgeting for a book every month as a family and say, we're now going to build a library at home, and every month we will buy a book and we will read it together as a family. And next month we'll buy another and another and another. Let's start by, because when we prioritize it at home, we are going to demand for it at school. But the reason parents are not asking is because they don't care for reading either. So in order for us to create, let's start at home, because charity begins at home. That's what I would say about, just in response to what Catherine's frustration is. And I agree. A lot of schools don't care about books. They don't care for books. They don't buy books. I totally do agree with you.
Thank you so much,
Over to you,
Jackie. Thank you so much, Jackie, for that elaborate, and it further emphasizes how we need to walk together this journey of improvement. And over to you, Dixon, if there are any other questions you feel you could tackle in terms of response before we go through some other announcements of incoming arrangements. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I also want to respond on the issue of the schools where we buy a lot of books and then children are not given an opportunity to read them. By the way, I also get shocked that the schools can take us, actually they can put us on so much pressure, and then we are made to buy expensive books. So many things actually happening, especially in private schools. And then you buy this book, but children are only in class reading all the time, to the extent that even a P4 child, or even maybe all primary children, they wake up at 4 a.m. for winter. It disturbs, for me, I actually feel like, where are we heading as parents? How can a P7 child wake up at 4 a.m. to read? My friend was telling, we went to visit them last week, and they have a senior 3 child. Since he came for the whole day, he sleeps almost much of his time because at school they don't sleep a lot. And they have really given him an opportunity to rest because he's going back on 9 this month. Now you can imagine. So I think as schools, I hope we're not speaking to people who are not here, but if they are there, I'm praying that surely bear with us. If you want us to buy books, then give them to our children to read them. And for those who those who are asking where can they borrow books or what can they do, depending on your location, look for, I say that you look for schools which have libraries and talk to them, especially our schools where we go to, and ask them to give you books. If you're in Mukono, at UC, there's a children's library, though they always want someone who's from, who's a community member of the university. But I think still you can, if you can bring your children around, those ones are allowed to read, especially on Thursdays. I can share my number. I'm going to put my number in the chat room afterwards. We can get in touch, and then I talk to the person who is in charge. Sometimes she attends sessions here. You can bring your children and they read. But also, I'm thinking that even in our universities or in these public places, when you take your children there, they can give them an opportunity to enter as long as you ask for permission. They can allow them to go and read. But you can also collaborate as parents. You know, the problem with some of us, one thing I've seen for us who are in urban centers, we are always in our own fences that we don't even know what is happening to our next neighbor. If it's hard to know your neighbor, just from our church circles, for us, most of us, I'm sure most of us here, we are in married family, married fellowships. You can ask your friends and say, friends, can we form our own book clubs? Can we know where we can access these materials? Can you help me identify this or get this? As we share together as parents, as we get vulnerable to the extent of showing our interest in certain things, we'll be able to get help. So don't just remain silent or thinking that you cannot get help or you don't know how to go about it when actually you cannot express yourself. They said a problem as shared is halfway solved. So you can share with just within your circles, and I'm sure that you'll be able to get help. So all these things that we are thinking about, you're wondering, how can I go about this? Just inquire from your friends. Or social media has come, just put on social media and say, friends, I'm looking for this thing. Where can I get this? And many people always give you a lot of information. Use your social media circles and put your question and say, I'm looking for a library where I can take my children. I'm looking for a reading club or book club for my children, or for anything, or for even adults, or even at your workplace. You can decide to talk to your workmates and say, can we start our children's book club, or even our own club, and then we see how we can take this to another level. I'm sure we shall always be able to assist one another. We shouldn't live as if we are in islands.
Thank you, Dixon, so much for that round of feedback. Robert, I can see your hand is up and we have about 10 minutes. So I'll request you, Robert, to just possibly use 1 minute, then we'll make mention of some announcements, and then Elder Langa will give us the closing remarks. So over to you, Robert. Please use 1 minute such that we fit into the next 10 minutes. Thank you. Over to you, Robert.
Are you hearing me? Hello?
Robert, you are clear and loud. Proceed.
Yes, what I'm saying, I just want to make my comment. But first of all, appreciate the people who were speaking to us about the culture of reading. I wanted to bring another dimension. You know, much of the literature that we have around us is written by some other people, not even Ugandans. I would want to find a way of asking our Ugandans also to begin, including myself, to begin writing their own literature, so that we can have it, you know, shared wide and near. So I think I begin to think there are some people who have, I'm not in their hearts, but there are some people who have a tendency of thinking that this is foreign literature. I want to read the Uganda literature, at most the African literature. So if we can promote many Africans writing material for us to read, that I think can widely promote our well-being in the culture of reading. That's my comment. I don't know what the people who are moderating will say on that.
Thank you so much, Robert. Yeah, you've challenged us that we are part of those who should be providing materials to read, especially as Family Life Network. As we look at values, this is also an opportunity put across materials. Nevertheless, as the Elder Langa will be giving us a vote of thanks to our panelists, he will make mention about that. At this point, I want to request our colleague Brian to come in and share some announcements. As he earlier mentioned, there are many programs that Family Life Network runs, and one of them is to the youth. And at this point, I want to ask Brian to come in and give us some detail of what is upcoming. Thank you. Over to you, Brian.
Thank you so much, Martin, moderator. Thank you so much, even the facilitator for today. BANG simply stands for Becoming a New Generation, and it's a program under Family Life Network. And it's just a special announcement that BANG will be hosting its second edition of the Teenagers Holiday Mentors Camp. And this mentorship camp will be at Green Hill Academy. And it's 150,000 for the teenagers, 150,000 Ugandan shilling. And just two numbers to call. You will call 0779 506949 and 0704 239472. Well, the numbers will be posted also in the chat section. But just a brief background about the bank. You know, it's a profound direction that we are taking on, and because of the demand of so many parents, that we needed to come up and support them in the parenting and guide them as well through this mentorship camp to address the concerns about the current state of the morals, the values, and the character in this generation. More so in our country, Uganda, and our communities, and above all, our families. Amongst the teenagers, and some of the common needs that we identified even before launching this, the teenagers camp, we noticed that the needs are very evident today, and their boundaries have been encroached. Where you'll find that entertainment today has been redefined amongst the teenagers. Fun has been redefined among the teenagers. Freedom, what they call freedom, has been redefined to them. And so we are seeing a big decline in empathy among teenagers. We see a big increased entitlement amongst them, where they expect special treatment without even putting any effort. We see a very big lack of accountability, not taking responsibility for the actions that they do and their consequences. We see a decreased face-to-face communication. And so, we see an over-reliance on technology, which is leading to isolation, social isolation. And these are some of the needs that we identified while really seeing the big need for this bootcamp. And we see disrespect and intolerance also among the teenagers today. There is increased disrespect towards authority, towards others' opinion, towards different perspectives. And so it was also a big need. So we say, let's come up with this camp to rectify the values, morals, and characters. We see a big decline in their esteem. Yeah, they can't fully express themselves. And also we see a lack of resilience among teenagers, where they struggle to cope with challenges and setbacks. We see decreased attention span amongst the teenagers, where there is high difficulty in focusing and engaging in meaningful activities. It's research that has been done, and so there's a big need for this camp. And so this is the second edition of the camp. It's going to be at Green Hill Academy, and it's very essential to acknowledge that all these concerns and so many more, we're working towards fostering stronger sense of morals, values, and characters all throughout this camp. It's for 3 days, from the 4th, that is just this very week, on Thursday, the 4th, up to the 7th. at Green Hill Academy. This is a program of Family Life Network, and some of the things we really hope to achieve, that we shall have a positive role modeling of these teenagers and open and honest communication, not only between us, the mentors, but also open and honest communication between teenagers and parents, teenagers and authority. So we expect to also teach empathy and compassion amongst the teenagers, and encourage them to have accountability and responsibility, and promote also face-to-face interaction and social interactions, and fostering a growth mindset amongst the teenagers. We also hope to achieve that through also teaching them media literacy, which has become a very big problem amongst them, and critical thinking amongst them. So it can be boosted amongst them. We will be teaching also sexuality, and then support their mental health and wellness, and then also leading by example and decision-making skills, self-awareness, and so many more other topics. And some of the main speakers, like you can see the flyer is right there. We have Elder BeatriceLanga together with the wife. They will be the lead speakers of this camp. We have Madam Anita Malinga, and we have Madam Sarah Biamukama. And other speakers will join us in the course of the camp. But let's work together, parents. Let's send our teenagers to this boot camp. And let's remember that every generation has its own unique challenges and opportunities. So let's work together so that we can help shape a brighter future for this generation and beyond. The contacts are going to be shared in the parents platform and also on this Zoom link just before it ends. Thank you so much. We hope to see you at teenager on Thursday, the 4th at Green Hill Academy. Thank you so much. Back to you, moderator.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Respective capacities and everyone present, praise God. My name is Akankunda Allen. I'm a student at Kampala University awaiting graduation, having pursued Bachelor's of Arts with Education, Literature, English. And I'm a volunteer with Family Life Network, having been the first bank online president. We gather here today not only to celebrate the love that has grown over years, but also to celebrate its impact and fruits. I'm one of those fruits, and these are all fruits. And those we are representing out there are fruits of this relationship. Personally, I've never regretted having decided to become a new generation and joining bank. I joined when I was wounded, having grown in a single parent family with a lot of holes in me. I couldn't imagine myself having a family, and in my life I had never thought of marriage. I was just looking at achieving dreams, getting a very huge paying job, driving, being that woman, you know. But you see me here, a transformed person who, for the first time, believes in waiting onto God's timing, preserving and keeping my sexuality pure, abstaining. Because of Family Life Network, I once again believe that marriage is real and you can make a happy family. Today, I introduce to you a person who has discovered.
Thank you so much, Brian. That was a feedback from one of the bank members, and some things are said to be that better felt than told. It's great seeing a child or a youth telling us what it means I would have experienced it. And really we look forward that to as many as possible as God gives you the opportunity, let your child attend. I'm one of those who has two children. I've attended the teenagers, a daughter and a son. And one unique thing I must confess is that many times we find it difficult to communicate to youth issues of values, but this bank setting is well packaged to communicate at their level to their hearts in a way that transforms them. I really encourage you that if you have the opportunity, please allow your child to attend. We have overshot by 2 minutes. The next aspect I want also to make mention, we said Family Life Network has so many faces. One of it is of recent a greater emphasis also to reach out to men. Increasingly, there's an outcry that negligence of boy child, but from a boy, you end up to a man, to a married man, to a husband who may have still those gaps of life that are hurting. So there's a lot of effort from Family Life Network to improve the men. And ahead of us is an arrangement. We're going to repost it on the chat. And that will be on Saturday. We are looking out for a special package, an effort that is special to improve the men in the roles, in the various roles, as a husband, as a father, as a man. In the eyes of God, what is it that we ought to be of greater benefit to our setting? So I'll post that, and at this point, since we have overshot by 3 minutes, I'll invite Elder Langa to give us a closing remark, a vote of thanks to the panelists and the people who have been able to keep up to the call up to this point. Over to you, Elder Langa, and thereafter we'll have a closing prayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, our moderator. Thank you very much, our panelists. We are truly grateful for the justice you have given to this important subject. We are going to have this information in our YouTube account, and we are also going to make sure that what has been done, given here, does not end here, but something will be done about it. But I beg you to please give me just a couple of minutes. I want to recognize two people and to give them a chance to just greet us. The first one is Rebecca from South Africa. Rebecca, just unmute and just greet us, say hello to us, and then after her, I'll ask Daniel from Nigeria to also just say hello to us, and then I will conclude. So Rebecca, please unmute and greet us. Is Rebecca, can she be unmuted, members? Technical team, can you unmute Rebecca, South Africa? Rebecca, are you there? Okay. Yeah, all right. Okay, then let me give the chance to Daniel, Daniel Wunu of Nigeria. Daniel, are you able to greet us from Nigeria?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, sir. My name is Daniel Wunu from Nigeria. It's such a privilege to be here for the last almost more than an hour, listening to the fantastic information coming from the knowledge coming from the panelists and everything that have been said. I'm sincerely grateful. I pray that God will increase this platform more and more as we work towards that vision of making Uganda and Africa in general a great nation and continent. Thank you, sir. I am sincerely grateful, sir.
Thank you very, very much, Daniel, for that, and pass our love and greetings to friends in Nigeria. Beatrice has just told me that Rebecca put a message that she has got visitors, so she will leave her machine on and will just be on and off. So we acknowledge that. So with that, really, I want to thank again. I want to thank again our panelists and each one of you for the wonderful engagement that we have had together this evening. It has really been wonderful. So with that, I want to say that's all from this month. We are going to have the next meeting in October, the first week of October. And then please mark your calendars. The first week of November, we want to have it physical, or which I shall actually have a hybrid. Those of us who can make it physically, we shall be there physically. And those who can't, we shall be able to broadcast it or to live stream it for you. That will be November, the first week of November, the first Sunday of November. Otherwise, take care. See you in a month's time. Otherwise, we see you virtually. For those of you who have registered, we're going to meet in the WhatsApp group. In case you are here, you want to continue this engagement, just sign in our WhatsApp group, join our WhatsApp group, and you'll be part of the discussion which we are going to take on beyond this virtual webinar. So thank you very much, and over to you, our moderator.
And I want to thank you all for having stayed online for these 2 hours. I hope it has been a helpful journey together, giving us many aspects to further address. And we thank you for this period. At this point, I want to request you that we have a closing prayer. I'll lead it. And so let's pray. God in the heavens, we thank you for the gift of time and for having given us this space to be together, looking out for the best of ourselves and the best of how we can help children. God in the heavens, we pray that you grant us the wisdom, the strength, and the means to progress, to be better and better others, to your name's glory. We thank you for all those who have accorded this time and given their best to make the setting a better place. And we pray that may all your wisdom, power, and glory guide us in ways that glorify your name. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. So we are 9 minutes past our stop point. We want to wish you a blessed week ahead of you. Thank you so much. And as much as possible, make use of the chat links that we've shared such that we keep in touch. God richly bless you. Have a nice week ahead.
And I know I'm representing many of us. We are transformed. We look at things differently. We dress differently. We are not taken by what other guys or the youth are taken of. You will never find a bank member in a club. You will never find a bank member in weekend marriage. Yeah. Because we view the world, our world view is so different from others. We are living a new generation. And we are here expecting to be good spouses, good leaders, very impactful leaders in our communities. And really, the world is not ready for us. Having Mama here, I've learned so many things from her. That love and kindness, being submissive. I always seek the Holy Spirit to make that humble, to soften my heart and be submissive more and more and more and more. Even if I have a dream of becoming a lecturer one day, I will study up to PhD, but I will still submit down to my husband. Your 40 years journey shows that it only takes one single person for our world to be transformed. It's now that we realize that One day, Papa Langa saw something special in Mama Beatrice, and both decided to move a life journey together. And the day they decided to move a life journey together was the day that has made us all gather here. Your friends, relatives, children, and everyone surround you with cheer today. Each smile with a reflection of love held so dear. You've built a legacy rich with grace and care. A family united with love that you share. So here is to more memories that sparkle like stars. To more achievement, to more love.